for it, mate.
Shannan Whitney, how are you, mate?
G'day, Ive. I'm very well. It's
How
nice to
does this
see
feel?
you.
Because you and I haven't we've spoken a lot in the last year or two about our private investments, but we haven't actually had something like this for a couple of years. How does it feel to see me?
Mate, it's very good to see you. I've seen you nearly every day of my life since I was 18.
I know.
So
I
I
know.
had so the last year has been unusual not seeing your face every year, but it's great to see you, mate.
Yeah,
It is great to see
likewise, mate. I'm really glad that we could have this conversation today because we
you.
haven't, there's so many things we could talk about. And we probably will in time when I'm back in Sydney and whatever. But mate, if I think I knew you better than a lot of people, but even I still don't really know Shannon Winnie incredibly well. How would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as, Juliet asked me this, and I often say I'm normal, um, which she laughs. I would say I'd wrap it up and say that I'm thoughtful.
Mm,
I'm interested and curious in a lot of things,
mm,
um, uh, but mostly I'm deeply committed to what I enjoy and what I
mm,
think is important,
mm.
uh, and mostly very thoughtful and curious about the things that I'm faced with, both in my own life and what's happening in the broader world that I find important to me.
Yeah, I reckon that's a pretty good summary.
Thanks,
And,
mate.
and that, and no, I do. And mate, we're so different, aren't we, Whit?
Yeah, I often say to Juliet, I reckon, because I didn't have a close relationship with my family when I grew up, and I reckon you've probably been had more to do with me than probably anyone, like on a daily basis
Mm,
across my 50 years.
mm.
Perhaps my sister in the first 15 years of our life, but I reckon you and I have spent nearly every day together from 18 to 40,
Yeah.
and that's longer than I've spent apart from perhaps my mother. It's the longest
Mm.
I've spent with anyone in my life, including Juliet. So you would know me better than most.
Yeah, I do. I reckon if someone said, "What do you think of Shannon?" or who is Shannon to you?" I'd go, "Mate, well, firstly, I've never been so committed to someone in my whole life.
Mm.
Like, and I'm talking girlfriend, partners, wives, and whatever. Um,
Yeah.
Mate, early days, like, and I'll get to it in a minute. But I'd say, mate, I found you very interesting. You would look at a square and say, "I think that's a circle," um, and you could actually convince someone that it is. You've always had amazing curiosity, which I'm
Yeah.
really like. You're like the questions you've asked have shaped me because like you were such a mentor to me in the first few years. The questions you ask people, it just I don't even know if you actually genuinely care or not, but geez, it seems like you care about every conversation you have.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
but also,
mate.
sorry, mate, I feel like this. We were similar in a lot of areas, but we are quite different in a lot of areas. You love
Yeah.
design. I'm super close with my family. I know you had an interesting relationship with your family when we first met and over the years with your parents and sister.
Yeah.
Um, so you were from the country. For those who don't know, Shannon was from outside Tamworth. Shannon doesn't need any introduction today. He was my beautiful business partner, like an older brother. Like he said at the start, we had, we met as an 18, 19-year-old. Shannon was a couple of years older. We started at McGrath early days, which was awesome. And, you're a huge mentor of mine at the start and really gave me everything. I've got you to be so thankful for, along with John gave us our start. Um, but there's just, I mean, I think you're a workaholic too. And
Yeah. I think
what do you think?
uh, I would say I wouldn't say I'm a workaholic, but I think that the this thing that both you and I were involved in was something that I didn't plan.
Mm,
Um, the real estate wasn't something that I had aspirations for,
mm,
but you know, it's something that I over 30 years of doing it, I've had time to reflect. It's something that I enjoy.
mm,
It's something one of the only things in life I've been good at.
mm,
And in some ways, you got to. you got to also respect the mysteries of what life delivers. You and I meeting, say in my case, being presented this sort of work. It's not something that I ever thought about. And as a result, that enjoyment, the passion, the love becomes important to you, and it's always been important to me. And I think that, to answer your question, it's important that you try and stay aware so you don't commit too much, and you do try and remain as balanced and as aware and conscious about its impact that it has on your life. I think definitely you would know better than most. There are times in those 3 decades that the love and commitment and passion for it became too much.
Yeah.
We had too much of it.
Yeah.
It engulfed our existence for years and years and years, that to a point where it can become unhealthy, as you and I have both seen. I just think that I've my relationship with what I do has changed over the years. With age comes wisdom, a bit more perspective.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think that the risk is that it dominates and becomes your identity and everything that you're about. And but I do say it's something that's really important to me, and I love it so much that it's not an effort for me to commit.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. No, I understand that. So you've gone ahead and you've made millions of dollars, right? And
Yep.
if you ask your 20-year-old self or Shannon at 40 or 45, 50, you're going to be worth tens of millions of dollars based on this industry, right?
Yeah.
Like, is there a point, like, do you say, well, I'm going to work to this level? Like,
Yeah.
what about, like, because if you asked anyone in their 20s, they'd say, I'll take 20 or 30 or $40 million and I'll go do something easier. I'll go travel. I'll go spend that money. I'll go enjoy that success.
Yeah.
How do you see that?
Uh, so a couple of call outs. I know that you and I were talking, did I think, I remember when I first started, when I came to Sydney, I had $194 in my bank account. I remember that number well. I remember key things like John McGrath telling us that we were going to make 250 grand a year. Remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
I thought that was even bigger, And then,
Yeah.
there are times I thought there's no way in the world I will be selling real estate at 50. Here I am. I'm 50 and I'm going to leave you now and I'm going to go and show a buyer through a house.
Yeah.
So I guess
But
what
what
I've
you're
learned,
saying is if you enjoy it, it gives you purpose. It's not about the money. That's just a byproduct. Like this gives you purpose. You enjoy it. You've obviously been
yeah,
inspirational and you've taught everyone. You're still growing the business. And that's the
yeah, and
thing that gets you up.
exactly. And there are also things that happen that you're faced with in life along the way that you don't account for.
Yeah.
And when, with life events, you do have to sort of be conscious and aware and pause and say, well, as a result of this change, how do I feel about things now? What
Yeah.
should I be doing? What's the best thing for me to do now? And
Mm.
I think if you're able to have the time and the patience and the capacity to look at these things and make changes.
Mm.
And if you had have said when I was 40 years of age, I'd have 3 girls that I'm parenting at 50. That wasn't something I expected.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's something that is part of my life, and that's very important to me. So
Do you spend
I
much time with them, Shannon?
I do, yeah. I'd say this, I spend as much time as I'd like to,
Yeah.
and I continually think about what I want to do in
Mm.
terms of my role as a parent.
Mm.
And I continually try and make changes to balancing all the things that are important in my life, which is work.
Well,
I
can I
don't
ask you,
make,
sorry, can I give you another question? Would you, do you wish sometimes you would spend more time with them in those, first 10 years? Because I know Paloma's 8, the other one's 4.
yeah.
Do you wish you'd spend more time with them, or do you feel like the amount of time you spend with them is pretty normal?
I think there are pockets of time I'd like to spend more time,
Mm.
but largely I feel that I feel that I've got a balance between what is important in my life and the amount of time that I've got to give to it.
Yeah.
And that includes my professional pursuits, that includes my relationships, and includes my time with my kids.
Yeah.
And yes, I think I've got a good balance with all
You're
those
happy with it.
things.
Yeah, well, you
Yeah.
designed that. Mate,
Yes.
we jumped out of the blocks. You had you know, like I said, you had a huge impact on me right through my life, but certainly when we started. But uh, how did you find the early days of BW? The first 5 years, if you go back there, you were 26, I was 22. The first year we did 155 sales, me, you, Pepe Cooley. I think Tuma joined us shortly after. When you reflect on the first few years when we started to put up those new signboards, what's your thoughts on that when you think back to that?
One of the most exciting,
Mm,
exhilarating, challenging, and
mm,
you know what it is? It's
mm,
satisfying.
mm,
It's satisfying. And the satisfaction comes with, if you remember,
mm,
you and I decided that we thought that was a good idea that we leave McGrath's and go and open up our own shop.
mm.
Forget about why we decided that, but to sit there and think that's what we decided to do and we actually achieved it,
Yeah,
it's not it's nothing else but being completely satisfied that you did actually achieve what you thought you could.
yeah,
And I'd say when I look at those times, did I enjoy getting to work at 6 o'clock sometimes? Did I enjoy leaving work? Did I enjoy working 7 days a week? I'm not sure whether I enjoyed it, but it was part of the journey and I wouldn't have changed it.
yeah,
And I can say that from someone at my age, I am deeply proud and satisfied that we did it and I did enjoy it. Yeah,
yeah,
I did enjoy
yeah. I just so you know, I actually loved the first 5 years more than the
it.
they were my most fondest. I know we were
Yeah,
young, silly, we made a lot of mistakes, and we were partying and selling a lot, and we're at a different stage of our lives. But like they were the years where we were pretty loose, and we're just seeing all the signboards and we're high-fiving, and mine and your relationship was very different too. Like I think we were a lot closer in the first 5 years. I think we grew apart
yeah,
a bit as the business grew and you were pulled in this direction and I was pulled in that direction. We had different relationships. I felt as the business went, we would probably grow up like we weren't as close as we were the first 5 years. Like we were literally, our arms were locked the first 5 years. It was us versus the world. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I was really fond of the first 5 years. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy the last few years, but I felt that our relationship when we started, but I'm sure that had something to do with our age and it was us versus the world and whatever. Mate,
Yeah, I think definitely too. You've got to also remember that when you start something, it's actually that unity, energy,
yeah,
commitment, day to day transactions are the thing that gets the ship off the ground. There's no
yeah,
other way to do it, right? And then once you get the thing off the ground, then the way you keep it going changes because then
definitely.
you need people to help you with that. So naturally, yeah, the dynamic's going to change.
Yeah. What was your roles changed a lot because like you were a salesperson to start with, you had a lot to do with the people a few years in, you know. Um, you stayed selling, we opened Glebe, you position yourself out there. I stay in Darlinghurst. A few years later, there was a need for you to run the business, which made sense. You were the maturer and the wise head and the visionary. And then when I departed in 19, you've gone back into sales. So
Yeah.
your role over the 20 years, 21 years now that BW has been going, has changed quite a lot. Is there a time that you enjoyed it or found it more challenging, uh, more than any of the other times? Or
Oh no, I think that what I enjoyed about the whole journey was that, and what I learnt was that growing a business and developing something, it's changing all the time, and as a result of that, it requires you to adjust, accept the new challenges ahead, and asks you to work out how you're going to find solutions to the next problem.
yeah,
And I think that the continual change is hard. And I think at times it's not about whether you like or dislike the new role that you have.
yeah,
It's about the reality of, are you up to those challenges?
yeah,
Do you like the idea of stretching yourself and trying to learn new things?
mm,
After a while, I started to enjoy learning new things and being challenged with trying to understand how the new dynamic, what was required of you, me, other people. I
mm,
really enjoyed the mental kind of bar that was put in front of us.
Mm.
But I also kind of accepted too that change is inevitable. It's
Yeah.
not something that you sort of hope doesn't happen. It will happen.
Yeah.
There will be good changes and there'll be challenges. And key people left. Your time in Sydney in real estate, your time in life was due for a change, and I guess that gave me a chance to reflect on how do I respond to that? What's important to me? How do I see that the next period of time, what's the best thing to do? I looked at and sat down and thought about, to your point, I wanted to make sure that there's time for other things in my life.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to have, a relationship with my wife and parent my children.
Mm.
And I sat and thought, how am I going to do that? And I thought it was a good time for this organisation to have a different voice.
Yeah.
It was kind of the ideal time with you departing.
Mm.
I thought everything sort of made sense to move some chessboard, some chess pieces around.
Yeah.
And look, frankly, I miss the property transactional problem solving.
Yeah.
I felt that I had, with my age and experience, I had some things to offer. I thought it was good for the organisation to have some transactional leadership, particularly with you and Will Phillips leaving.
Mm.
And I think I could participate in the business in a more flexible way and give more time to other things in my life by being an agent. Interestingly,
So you've been agent now for 5 years. How is it? Just quickly.
uh,
You're good at it. You're good at it. You're very good. I'll tell you what you're good at is I mean, you've always been a solid agent, but you're good at like complex sales, I found. Like, like if
yeah,
it's a warehouse or an apartment building or something that's a bit, mixed zoned, commercial
yeah,
resi, like you're really like you love that complexity for some reason. I don't know why. Why is that?
yeah, I do. Well, I think it's as you came back and said, if you've got to remember, you and I were doing 100 sales as a
20
team
something. Yeah.
when we were 26.
Yeah. Yes.
What's my next Everest? Is selling 100 properties, volume. It doesn't get me out of bed. That's not important to me.
Yeah.
Is GCI important to me? No. Do I enjoy property? Do I enjoy property and the transaction? I do. You and I have learned a lot about different facets of the industry, different categories, investment, development. I like to get up and be challenged and say, how can my experience and what I bring as a human being, how can I add value to this?
Yeah.
And when I look at that, with all due respect, mums and dads who own their first or second house and their desire to sell a house, that's not me anymore. So I try and think about what's going to stimulate and invigorate me.
Yeah.
And I have to say, property does every day, and I enjoy that, providing I'm involved in situations and scenarios that I need to add value to it. So as long as I'm doing that, I enjoy it. And
Look,
I think
mate, and I've got to say, you're really good at it. And again, you've just proved it because you're in a CEO role for 6 or 7 years, I think, 8 years, and then you've dumped back into sales and you've done really well, mate, because I keep an eye on it. Hey, mate, no, I do. Mate, you sold something last week for 10 million, a building, Medusa, didn't you?
I did, yeah, I did.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, so quick one. What was the most annoying thing about me as a business partner? How many have you got? You probably got a few.
Yeah. Fuck, how do I come up with one?
Well, just the first one or one. What was the most annoying thing about me? Because our personalities are quite different.
No, I think the greatest challenge is when you're working with someone where you're both aligned, is accepting, as you said, the differences you have as individuals, and harnessing
marriage,
those.
right? It's like a marriage.
It's like a marriage, and you have to harness the differences for the benefit of both of you.
Yeah.
And I would say it's, if you had have asked that question when I was 30, it'd be a lot easier because I'd focus on the word annoying was very easy for me to categorize. Yeah. I look at it now and say, gee, didn't we achieve a lot as two very different people coming together with a single cause? And I think that we probably haven't given ourselves enough credit for being able to deal with that, because that's a really hard thing to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of people just don't make it.
I agree. Yeah.
You can see why, right?
And
You can see why.
I'm obviously biased, but I still believe and think that what we created is the best brand in the 21st century in Australia.
Yes,
I
that's the
believe that.
difference. Yeah, that's the difference between, you know what, that unwavering confidence. I used to actually think, fuck, gee, Ivans, how does he come up with those
And
statements? That's a big step.
I still believe that. I coach
I
heaps of
know.
agents now, and I speak to agencies everywhere. And people, I'm fortunate because Bresic Whitney has helped me in the coaching business because people
Yeah,
just love the brand. Hey,
yes,
we've employed over 200 agents or more.
yeah,
So easily over 21 years, I was
more,
thinking about,
yeah.
yeah, more. There's 60 there today, and there's been at least 150 come and go. Who do you think was the most, like, not, and I don't want to be included in that, but who do you think was the biggest loss at a particular time? That's a hard one.
Oh, um, uh, I think that probably the biggest impact was when you and Will left,
Mm,
because of the influence that you had on the organization and the agents. I never saw the GCI, financial aspect
take a
as
big
being,
hit.
yeah, because if you look at what I learned over the years was that when we've had a lot of people leave, if you
Mm,
focused on the GCI and you think, gee, that's going to change a lot, but remarkably, the financial numbers improved,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you, after a while, you think, gee, that's interesting, and then you realize, there's reasons for that. I think that when you and Will left,
Well, there's strong
the
foundations. The business continues to grow, and it's a strong brand. So it can,
yeah,
Um, it, the void of a McClay leaving or when Will left, or for me when I was there, I think losing Toomer the first time was the biggest hit.
oh
Because,
yeah, that's right, yeah,
no, that
yeah,
was for
yeah,
me because he was in Darlinghurst. He was our number one agent, and I was like,
right, right,
mate, we've just spent 7 years developing. Now he goes. Now we need to start all over again. And then
I remember
obviously
that,
Will left, which I'm sure, because Will was a big thing. I'm not including
yeah,
myself. And then I'm sure, and
yeah,
then McClay, but I know the numbers, even with McClay leaving, have continued to grow. But it's a
yeah,
great business. Um,
yes, yes,
what
yes.
was the most challenging period for you over the last 20 years as the founder, one of the founders?
Look, the most challenging thing for me was always being too invested in people. Um, and the most challenging thing was always that when you're a founder and you're an owner,
Mm,
I could never shut off the fact that I wanted everyone who worked for us to have the best experience possible and do really well for themselves and the company. And I think that as it got bigger, you
yeah,
went from 5 people to 10 people to 30 people to 60 to 100.
yeah,
I tended to find it was exhausting.
yeah. It is.
It was absolutely exhausting, and it wasn't about how many hours you did. I simply could not distance myself from that. And I think as a founder,
Yeah,
I don't know how else to explain it. You can't just leave it at the door every night. I
I
could
hear
not
you.
stop thinking about it. And it's funny because people often would surprise. I did watch and notice and care what our reception team were doing, how they felt, what they didn't enjoy. It does matter,
Mm,
in terms of accounts or marketing or leasing. When you're a founder and an owner and a CEO and all those wearing all those hats,
mm,
it I just found it really hard to switch off.
yeah,
And one of the great fears I had when I started having children was I can't continue to carry that with me and give myself to my children on a day-to-day basis like I want to.
yeah. Because
So
if you're saying that as a founder or as a CEO, your staff are your children. So
they
you're
are.
and you've got 100 or 120 or 150 out there that you're thinking about all the time. So if you're at the top, you have to think about all them. Then you've got two or three biological children at home. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, I hear you. Best memories after over 21 years?
Look, I think the best memories for me in terms of, when I look back on my life was the key milestones that we achieved in our first 3 years, 4 years, as a late 20s person. I mean, they were, they, I'll never forget those. They were fantastic. That was achieving goals that, I have to say,
Mm.
looking back, they were just some of the best.
Yeah,
Um,
it was a
you
lot of fun.
know, it was so much fun, and look, looking back, it's just amazing the enormity of that decision, and how, not how silly it was, but how brazen and ambitious we were, how little thought we gave to things,
Mm.
and how we were able to create something from nothing on pure energy, commitment, and dedication.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I think
it.
I think the shadow or the advantage to starting so young is that you don't know what you're risking. Like you're just like, let's do this.
Exactly,
Whereas if
exactly.
you're at 50 or 40, you go, oh, I don't know about that. That happened to them. I saw those guys, that partnership didn't work out, or those guys closed their doors after 12 months. But at
Yeah,
22, 26, we go, I just followed your lead because, I still remember when we had that coffee on Oxford Street in 2021, and you go, mate, I
yeah,
reckon, remember? And you
yeah.
go, I reckon we should go and do this ourselves. And I was all right. And then the year fell past and we didn't do it. And then you said, mate, I'm going to do this with or without you. Are you in? I said, no, no. I rang my dad and dad goes, mate, do it for sure. And my loyalty was with you. And,
Yeah,
the first few years, I think just getting signboards up and high-fiving, and we had some great parties and stuff. I mean, we were 20 and stupid, but that was
yeah,
so fun. And I agree with you. I think as the business got bigger, the responsibility I found difficult personally.
yeah,
The
yeah,
responsibility, because mate, like you have to be so concerned about people. Then you've got not just Shannon now. We've now got 6 or 7 other partners who have a
correct.
voice. And so
Correct.
I found that transition for me probably not as enjoyable as
Yeah, yeah,
the infancy. There's 3 phases to every business: infancy, adolescence, maturing. I found that adolescence period, that was a transition. It's a mature business now. You've got heads of departments. Everyone knows Bresic Winnie. I'm sure it's great. Um,
hmm,
your one thing that's been, I work with a lot of high performers and I speak to heaps of agents. They regularly have holidays. I had difficulties with you when we were in partnership that you never took holidays when I was like, mate, I have to have them. So just talk to me about that. Like, I know you'll say, yeah, I do a little bit, but like across the industry, mate, you take 2 weeks off, and that was usually in January. So
yeah.
like, and I'm not being critical of that. I'm just sort of naming what I experienced as your partner, because like I needed a break as the older I got, I needed more and more breaks. And a lot of the high performers do too. What's your view on breaks and holidays? Because this is a taxing business.
Oh, it's very taxing. So
Mm.
I think that I come back to, for many years, my absolute dedication and commitment to this as part of my life, the business, the work, was so important that it would always end up dominating my
Mm.
thinking, and kind of influencing my behavior. Um, I didn't also feel, I never used to go to Europe and do all those sorts of things. If I ever took a break, I'd usually want to get out of the energy and the culture of my day to day Sydney
Yeah,
professional stuff.
yeah,
That to me was more important to me.
yeah.
Um, and I found that, and I still find today that, I have to be very conscious and aware about trying to remove myself. And now, with children,
Mm.
um, you have to kind of do that differently. So yes, interestingly, I never felt that I needed to go and take myself into another part of the world or another part of Australia, um, on a regular basis. Um, I do have a very high level of work. I've got a very high work ethic.
Yeah,
I've got an ability to. I've got some
good.
ability to stick with it.
Yeah,
But there were periods that, I did. I stuck with it for too long, and it ground you down, and you don't perform at your best.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, that was one of
Where
my
does that? Where
downfalls.
does that like you and I? One thing we definitely had in common was our work ethic. I don't think
Mm.
when we were working, I never thought Shannon's taken the piss, or I hope you don't think that I ever took the piss, because
Never,
I really
no,
felt like
never.
where does your I know where mine comes from, but it's not about me. Where did your hard work ethic come from? Is it from family? Did you want to make money? Did you want to be successful? Did it make you feel proud? Did it make you feel confident?
Yeah, a bit of everything. I think that's a good summary. Looking back, we know we learn a lot in terms of our leadership training, in terms of what our childhood messaging was, our childhood environment. I grew up in a very unremarkable, probably standard environment where I didn't have a lot of high achievers around me. I was always curious and interested. I wouldn't say I was ambitious, but I learned I certainly, looking back, I learned very young, particularly with my relationship with my parents, that there was only one person and one thing in life that was going to influence how well I did, and that was me.
Yeah.
Um, so that was imprinted in my brain and in fact, it wasn't even something I thought about consciously. That's how I saw the world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think in terms of having self drive and motivation, it's not something you and I shared that. It was just in me. And
Yeah.
it's interesting that, the mysteries of life put you in front of things, and they put me next to you, and they put us in an industry that it was the first thing I'd ever come across that I actually felt this is easy.
And who do you think that agents can learn hunger, or do you think they've either got it in them or they don't? Like that special hunger and drive that the high
I
performers
think
have.
I think that some people have it innately.
Yeah.
I do also think that if you're put in an environment, in a certain high performing environment where the standards and the messaging and the expectations in an environment are clearly in front of you on a day to day basis,
Yeah.
I think that will influence people.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good point.
I have also seen that it unlocks things in people that
Yeah.
were there, but they didn't have the environment to bring that out. And I've
Yeah.
also seen where that sort of environment and high performance culture does the opposite,
Yeah.
where it is something that is not comfortable with people and it's not important to them, and they react negatively to that. So
Mm.
I think it's a bit of both. And I think that for you and I, we've spent so many years learning and interrogating, how do you improve performance from people? What's the best way to learn and to teach agents in their craft? You see responsiveness and behavior, and you see things that you start to see patterns
Yeah.
emerge. And I agree. You walk and you see some people, and it is just naturally comfortable that
Yeah.
they are, they get
They
up and
they
they don't
excel. Yeah, they
they
excel in
excel.
that industry. Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of
I've
quick ones,
seen
mate.
Yeah, I've seen some of the most talented people. I've seen some of the most talented people, that are just so comfortable in this sort of work, but you put them in an environment where they need to, the standards are really high and you need to meet high performance metrics, and they don't.
Yeah. I've got a couple of quick ones. I know you're busy this morning. I'll let you go. But um, as an agent, what do you think's changed? Like, how does an agent have to succeed for an agent to succeed today, has that changed in the last 10 years, or is it still the same fundamentals?
I would say the basis and fundamentals are still the same.
Which are what? If you had to summarize them, how would you summarize them? What are those fundamentals?
So the fundamentals from an agent's going to, in my view, I think that the two key things are you talking about an agent to be successful?
Yeah, if I said to you, Shannon, it's year one for me, how can I get successful in real estate? How would you explain that?
So the most important things is you're starting. You've got to commit to the base key sound agent practices that's going to be with you if you're in this industry for 5 years or 50 years. You've got to develop those things
And what are they?
forward. You need to have a clear understanding about what the key components are going to be. You're going to have to prospect. Prospect is a very general word.
Yeah,
You
that's
are
good.
going to have to you are going to have to provide a service to buy side and sell side.
Yeah,
You've got to learn what is meant by that.
yeah,
You are going to have to be participating in a negotiation of an asset,
Yep.
and you need to have good communication skills.
Yep. Yep.
Those are the key things that are going to be with you from day one all the way through. What happens is
That's
what
gold.
people
By
want
the
to do
way,
is,
Whit, that's gold. That's
yeah,
gold. Because you've just said, if you want to be successful in this industry, it's the same fundamentals, whether you're 50 or you're 20 years old, you have to prospect, and we won't get into
yeah,
what types today. You have to be provide service both on the buyer and the seller side.
correct,
You have to be able to negotiate, and you have to have good
correct.
communication skills. I mean, that's
Yes.
you've just refreshed my memory. Like, I mean, I talk about this stuff, but that is gold. That's a
They're
great
the four. I'm still practicing today. I
yeah,
started in 1993. Those are the four things I do every day. Hasn't changed.
that's
In
gold.
terms of the delivery of the service,
Mm.
that's changed because it's faster.
Yeah,
So there's different ways that people do that through resources, people, technology, the delivery, the customer experience is different. So of course you're going to see some differences and some speed, but the basic fundamentals, the agent's still doing the same thing today that they were doing when you and I were doing it in 94.
yeah. No, I think it's a great summary, and you've highlighted too. The only thing that's changed is speed because of technology and the way agents do things. What are some of the biggest mistakes we made? You think? Because I have an opinion on that, but I'm curious to hear yours.
Look, you make more mistakes than you do good decisions.
For sure.
That's the truth. I think in terms of where
Oh, actually, I don't
some of
know
the
about that. I don't know about that. I think, like for me, that there was 20 good decisions when I think about it, and maybe two or three key poor decisions. But go ahead.
I always think that when you've got a growth mindset, you're going to take a lot of risks with some of your decisions.
Mm.
You're going to in your pursuit to grow, you're going to make geography decisions, you're going to make people decisions, you're going to make investment decisions.
Yeah,
And I do think that it's natural that some of the decisions are not going to flow through to rewarding. And I think you do make a lot of them.
yeah,
But I think the risk is why a lot of people don't grow is they're too scared of taking risk. And I know one of the things that we have done differently is I think we were quite prepared to make tough decisions and do things. And we actually did make a lot of bad decisions, but I saw a lot of people weren't able to make decisions, period. They sat there and still the same thing that they
yeah,
were. So interestingly, I think that there are a lot of key, kind of decisions that were not great ones. I think where we chose geography, commitment to investments in
yeah,
terms of technology and other things, they were key things.
yeah,
Um, key decisions on people at times were not good decisions.
yeah.
I reckon there's been heaps, to be
No, so I
honest.
think you've summarised it. Like, I would have. The only thing I'd do differently, if I knew what I knew now, and it was Ivan and Shannon in 2003, I probably would have kept it a little bit leaner. Which you know, I'm probably going to say this. I would have probably kept it leaner and had more dividends flowing through to us and the shareholders from an earlier stage. But you would
Yeah,
argue, or your debate would be, yeah, but if we're going to grow, you have to invest. But so it's a balance. But you're
yeah,
right. You said, mate, sometimes we hire the wrong people or too many people. Sometimes we paid dividends to, or like some of the share, like some of the profits filtered through to the rest of the company. They're probably not even there today, those people. But anyway, look,
yeah,
that's pretty.
yeah.
What do you think?
No, it's a good summary.
Let's end on this. What do you think were some of the best decisions we made, or you've made, or the business has made over the last 20 years?
Oh, mate, I think that some of the best decisions that we've made were making the decision in the first place because we when we started in the industry, it was time for change.
Yeah,
By the time John Starr had kind of there were changes, and
yeah.
it was an opportunity, and we made that decision. That was
Mhm.
bold and brave, bit
Yeah. So,
silly, but we made
so,
it. We did
so,
it.
so starting was a good decision. What else?
Starting, uh, being prepared to go into different markets was a good decision. That was a
Yeah,
very good decision.
yeah,
I think we backed ourselves. I think that making decisions, making some of the decisions we did about brand was a good
Yep.
decision,
Yep, I would
but that
agree.
takes a long time to come back. I
Yep.
think we made some great decisions with our people.
Yep, I agree.
The key people that have left and the key people that are still here, I think they've all been really good decisions.
Agree.
Uh, and look, I think that we've had to make hard decisions about leadership. That's hard. They're bloody hard. But I think that we've made some good decisions on people leadership over the years as well. And we gave people a go when maybe a lot of people wouldn't have. We put people in leadership positions when they were very young.
Yeah.
And I think that our commitment to trying to develop people's leadership capabilities was also a really good decision.
Yeah.
That
I might just add to that. Like, I agree with everything you've said, and I would say too, like getting photographers in was a great decision. The design of the offices, you've still got those offices that we designed 5, 10, and 15 years ago. So as much as they were expensive at the time, we've got years out of them.
last. Yeah, they've
Um,
lasted.
I'd also say, like, using buyer's guides. We were the first company to move away from print advertising.
Yeah,
Bringing auctioneers in-house was something new.
yeah,
We were focused on developing people, and the business still
yes,
develops people. Like, that was a great decision. Like, instead of us hoarding listings, you and I, we would list and flick, list and flick, list and flick. And I remember
yeah.
you so many years ago going, Ivan, do you want to be an agent orient? Do you want to be a business where you and I are predominantly the agents, or do you want to grow a business? And I was like, okay, that's it. Because if you do, list and flick basically was what you were saying. Um,
Yeah.
I think so. I think they're the best decisions that come to my mind. Is like um, when I think about, what really, because I work with so many businesses. Like, there's so many things that blogging, having a creative team. I thought those were some of the best decisions because that put the business and the brand like on a different pedestal. But anyway,
I
mate.
think also, I think lastly, just I think what a lot of people, if you could summarize it this way, because people have asked me this question a lot. I think we were one of the first, we were at the beginning of the change in the real estate industry where we were a selling focused agency where we would, because they use the term buyer work. What I think is we had a really strong selling culture, not a listing culture.
Yeah, we did.
And that came out of John McGrath was probably the one who really highlighted the importance of servicing vendors, the importance of listing more and then focus there. Interesting, a lot of people say, oh, well, you guys did a lot of buy work. Well, it's not. We just were really focused on how do you sell better?
Yeah. Yeah.
How can you improve the selling component of what we do? Because if we get good at that, we're going to get more
We'll
listings.
get the listings. Yeah, and we did do really well. Mate, happy 50th for a couple of months ago.
Thanks, mate.
I'm grateful that after all these years, and my departure, that we're still close and we're still friends, and we always will be.
Yeah,
Congratulations on your success. Mate, I'm going to come to Sydney soon. I hope to see you. I'll come and see you if that's okay. I'd love
please
to.
do, mate.
Send my love to
I'll be.
Juliet and the
Yeah,
fam.
well,
Oh,
okay,
great
mate.
having a chat with you, mate, and we'll catch up soon.
Good on you. Good to see you
Thanks,
too, mate.
Whit.
Thanks.
Bye, mate. See
See
you,
you, man.
legend.